This is the last one now. This is it. Oh, I am exhausted. Jordan, you've killed me. Welcome to the channel, everybody. We're talking drivers, and not just any driver. We're talking the most powerful drivers of 2024. I have 5 that I've chosen from my office to bring into this studio, to loft them down, to push the weight forward, to give them the most optimal performance that I can hit it as long as I possibly can. I've got the TaylorMade Qi10 LS. I've got the Callaway Triple Diamond AI Smoke. I've got the Cobra. I've got the LS version of the Cobra Darkspeed. I've got the GT3 by Titleist, and I've also got the Ping LST. I'm going to smack them as hard as I can and see which one goes the furthest. And a small point, I don't care where they go. Now there's a few things that we need to discuss before I even hit a golf shot in here, and that's my setup, because I think if you guys are looking to hit the ball just a little bit further, you might be able to take a few of these points and it might be able to help you hit the ball just a little bit further. First things first, tee height. I've got an orange castle tee. Doesn't have to be an orange castle tee, but it's the tee that's going to give you the most height before you start hitting it too high that you hit it on the top of the club, which then leaves these sky marks, which you don't really want. Jordan's also passed me a wooden version, but you can see there that when I set it up into that position, that wooden one's got the opportunity to go a little bit higher than the orange castle. So depending on what you prefer. Now the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure my ball position is quite a way up towards my left side. I'm going to push it maybe just a little bit outside my left heel. This will enable me to swing up on the golf ball just that little bit more. I'm looking to try and hit up on the ball by about 5 or 6 degrees. That's really important, whereas normally I'd be maybe 1 or 2 degrees hitting up. So maximum distance, you need maximum launch. I'm also going to move my swing path just a little bit more in to out, so I'm going to get the sense of almost trying to hit a bit of a draw, just to maximize that path, maximize that distance, and then strike location, I want it slightly higher in the club face, and I want it a little bit in the toe. This is going to reduce my spin numbers, and again, get me out there as far as possible. Now the first up is the TaylorMade Qi10 LS. Now this one is always been pretty hot for me. Now when I've done my testing previously for this driver, it's given me the most ball speed. I had to actually put it in the bag for a little while, but again, this is the problem when you go into these low spin models. I lost a little bit of control on the golf course, therefore lost a little bit of confidence. But let's give it a ride and see how we get on. So setup wise, I've got a 9-degree head. This is all I can get my hands on. So 9-degree head, but I've been able to move the sleeve down to lower. Well, what that means is it's dropping it down by 2 degrees. It's getting it down at 7 degrees. Remember, I'm going to hit up on this golf ball an awful lot. Therefore, I need to get my loft down in order to optimize the performance. I've also got it set in a little bit of draw bias. I'm trying to set these drivers up as best as we possibly can to optimize to give me the most. The other thing you'll notice as well, I'm quite energetic today. Well, I've got to be, because I'm trying to hit it as hard as I can. Therefore, I'm kind of pumped up. But let's carry on with the next few shots and see what I get with this particular driver. The next up is the Ping G430 LST, low spin technology that we've got in this particular head. We've got a 9-degree head, and I've moved it down to its max in the sleeve down to minus 1.5. So I've got it at 7.5, which is basically as low as I can possibly get it. Let's give it a ride and see how we get on. Now you're probably going to find that this driver is a very popular driver on tour. Some of you probably think that the 10K max version of the G430 is probably the most popular, but out on tour, the LST sits in a lot of golfers' golf bags. And interestingly, Ian Poulter had this in his golf bag when we were visiting Woburn. He was hitting golf balls on the range. We went over and had a quick chat with him, noticed he had this LST version in his bag, which he said was giving him, well, the best numbers at that particular time. So let's hit 5 more and see what we can get from this driver. Even though it's not metal, it still sounds like metal when you tap the crown of the Titleist GT3. Now this one fitted for me when I went to Woburn. I've got this one set at 9 degrees. We've lofted it down by 0.75 degrees, so as low as we can get it to go down in the sleeve. We've put the weight actually in the toe on this driver because to get the strike perfect for me, I want to get it, like I said before, a little bit higher and a little bit in that toe. If I get a bit more mass behind it, I might be able to just generate a little bit more speed. Let's give it a crack. Still one of the most used drivers on tour. BMW Championship, Billy Horschel was using this exact driver to go on and win in the playoff against Rory McIlroy. Now the Cobra Darkspeed, I think, is the dark horse amongst this lot because it probably doesn't sit on the shelf, let's say, in that category amongst this lot. It probably fits just a little bit lower, price point just a fraction lower. Therefore, people think that it won't perform as well. Beef Johnson smacking it out in Switzerland, he cracked it about 450 yards. So it's got some power in this particular driver. Now, what I've done here is I've pushed that weight right forward. I've got the 12 gram weight in the toe at the front here to push that weight forward, bring the spin down, and then I've dropped it by 1.5 degrees. It's at 9 degrees in the head, so it's down to 7.5. Let's give it a go and see how we get on, but expect to get 1 or 2 out of this one that's going to go quite well. Profile wise though, when I look down at it, I don't know if it's because of the paint job on it, it's a matte finish, but it looks a little bit smaller than certainly the other couple that I've already tested. So it doesn't give me a great deal of confidence. But it goes, it really does go. The Callaway AI Smoke Triple Diamond. Now, this hasn't given me the best numbers, should we say, throughout the generations of the Sub-Zero version or now the Triple Diamond version, because I just find it really hard to hit. And the reason I find it really hard to hit is when you push the weight so far forward like you've got in this particular head, it feels really heavy down by the ball. Therefore, I struggle to square the face up and hit fairways. However, now we're doing a bombing test. I've pushed that weight way forward and I've given it an opportunity to get out there as far as possible. I've got the 9 degree head, I've popped it down as low as it will go at -1, so it's 8 degrees and it's in draw. So let's see if I can square this up, hit a fairway and get it out there. My gut feeling is this could do really well. 2 big hitters that you'll know about this particular driver, John Ram and Xander, went on to win the Open Championship with this particular driver. However, both of them I've got it lofted up, so they're at like probably 10 degree heads because this particular one will go low in that spin. Let's give it a go. Oh, that will go. Okay, shall we look at the numbers? Jordan's going to blur out all the bottom ones so you can't see those. But starting off with the TaylorMade Qi10 LS, 158 mile an hour off the face. This is what I was getting when I've done my testing. This is why I said that 158 is pretty much my max. I can't really get any more than that, but in today's one, I got one there at nearly 160, 159. Launching it at 14 degrees with an average spin, and I think to get it out there as far as possible, you need your launch up and your spin down. I've got 1,884 revs on an average. To me, on a golf course, I wouldn't be able to perform particularly well with hitting fairways and hitting my target, spinning it on an average of 1,800 revs. Well, what does all those numbers lead up to? On an average, I'm carrying it 286 yards and it's running out at 311. I don't hit those numbers, so it's quite impressive to see that we've got it up there at over 300 yards on that overall distance. Next up, Ping LST. Now, ball speed wise, I was ripping at this as hard as I could, but I could only get it at 155 on an average with the ball speed. Now you compare that to that Qi10 at the top there at 158, this one just struggling to get that ball speed up. half a degree difference in loft, remember, so 7 degrees to 7.5 degrees, so that's going to make a bit of a difference there. Launching it a little bit higher at 15 degrees, but spin, it's spinning at an average of 2,000 revs. I just couldn't get that spin down like I could out of that TaylorMade. Which, if you look at the combination of a little bit lower in ball speed, a little bit higher in spin, average carry of 279 yards, which is a little bit down from that 286 I was getting out of that TaylorMade, and then total distance 302 yards. So again, just a little bit less than what I'm getting out of that TaylorMade. Then we move into the GT3 Titleist, 157.3 mile an hour on an average ball speed off the face, which is fractionally lower than what I'm seeing out of that TaylorMade. And to be honest with you, it's what I've been seeing in all my testing throughout the year with those two drivers. If we look at launch, very similar to what I was getting out of that TaylorMade at 13.8, and then spin at 1900 revs, just above 1900 revs. Again, just a fraction higher than what I'm getting out of that TaylorMade, but ultimately outperforming what I'm seeing out of that Ping. So fractionally lower in ball speed, fractionally higher in that spin, 283 yards on an average carry that I'm getting, which is 3 yards less than what I'm seeing out of that TaylorMade. And then again, if you look at the overall distance, 308 yards is what I'm totaling with this particular driver. Again, a few yards down than what we're getting out of that TaylorMade, but overall performing better than the Ping. The dark horse, the Darkspeed from Cobra, 157.9 mile an hour on an average off the club face in its ball speed, which is fractionally more, only fractionally more than what I'm getting out of that Titleist. Launching it pretty much the same at 13.6, and then spin-wise, spinning up a little bit, spinning it at 2,186 revs, which is fractionally more than what I'm getting out of that Titleist, fractionally more than what I'm getting out of that TaylorMade. But if we look at the overall distance of this driver, I've managed a PB at the top there, 291 yard carry. I did say to keep a lookout for this particular Cobra, and then 314 yards is where it's totaled out. But on an average, it's going at 280 and it's running out to 303. But when you get this one right, when you get it measured up right and you get it performing, it has the potential to produce something pretty impressive. So before we look at the Callaway numbers, again, if we sort of work out where we're at now, we've got TaylorMade as number 1, we've got Titleist at number 2, we've got the Cobra at number 3, and then we've got that Ping coming in at number 4. However, the Callaway, the average ball speed out of this particular driver is at 160.2 mile an hour, which is as good as I've ever done with any driver. So I'm extremely impressed with that. One there at 161.6. If we then look at the launch of this driver, we've got 14.2 on an average, which is pretty much what we're seeing out of that Titleist, what we're seeing out of the Cobra, and what we're seeing out of that TaylorMade. And then spin though, couldn't get the spin down as much as what I thought I would with this driver, getting it out there at 2,089 revs. So that's spinning up fractionally more than I would expect. However, if we look at that average carry, 290 yards, I just couldn't stop wanting to hit this driver. It was going out there so far at 290 yards. However, I felt like I was leaking it a little bit right. And if I could get one turning over with it, which I did here, 292 yards on that carry, which is 1 yard further than what I got out of that Cobra. And then on an average, as I said, 290, but getting 313 yards with total rollout. Now I'm absolutely exhausted, and just a footnote is that was just a bit of fun to try and see what I could get out of these drivers. Just be very careful if you're going to do this yourselves. What you didn't see there is me doing some stretching before I hit some shots. Now, when it comes to the numbers of these particular drivers, it was quite impressive, wasn't it? To see where we thought they would kind of come from and where we've actually got to. I didn't think the Ping would perform as bad as it did. As bad as it did, is that fair? I think it's performed really, really well. I think actually from all of them, I think that it has the potential to be the most consistent when it comes to actually finding a few more fairways. However, that Cobra nearly chased up into these top 3, didn't it? It was performing really, really well, and it got it out there at the second longest drive of the day. I think the Titleist performed as well as it probably was going to. I think this driver is a fantastic driver, which is probably one of the most used drivers on tour, and I think you'll find lots of fairways. However, that TaylorMade being pipped by the Callaway, I'm not surprised, if I'm honest. I did think the potential in that Callaway had it where it could take over that TaylorMade, even though I think this TaylorMade performs so well and I see so many of them in so many of your bags out there. But I'd like to hear what you think for my top 5 and the #1 driver of 2024 when it comes to distance. Do you use any of these drivers? Are you gonna go and get fitted for any of these drivers? I'd like to hear down there in the comments. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you again on the next video.